What is going on? And in this video of Finding Freedom, we're going to talk about the acronym FAITH, right? It's a ram, not a lamb. Now, why would I state that? Why would I say it? Why would those words even begin to come out of my mouth unless you're not trying to understand? You're emotionally triggered right now and you're just hearing and not understanding, or listening, which is to hear with the intent to understand, such as active listening. Remember that. So, let's get into this, right? Since the healthcare system wants to play with stuff like psychology, and other industries and agencies and societies want to play with psychology, sociology, the human mind, understanding science, and all this other stuff, healthcare is supposed to stand for, well, heal them and care, right? So you have Elon Musk, E and M. Then you have Eminem, which is an E and M, right? They just left that part out. But what about faith? If we're living in the matrix or the past, free AI to them, right? Remember, a long time ago in a different video, I said ChatGPT 3 was going to be free. 4, you're going to have to pay for. Now let's get into this, right? Because as you can see, there's little periods in between, right? So you see F and then .ai.th, right? Free AI, and wait, to them. Why 2? Is it the number? Is it squared? Is it the way something's said in a book? Because if you study history, people that were crucified, similar to Vlad the Impaler, were put on crosses and nailed to them as the entrance to the area in which they were entering, to remind them to follow the rules and laws. Now, in a certain book, there's the trace law, or the 3 crosses. One asked a question, since it was, well, he was going to die. One in the middle, who was a psychologist, looked at the other person. The other one says, yeah, put money in my fucking pocket. Get me down off this cross. Blah, blah, blah. Why did the murderer or killer go free and those got put somewhere else? See, there's always somebody willing to push the envelope, but unless you understand why the murderer or the killer's actions and intent took place, without understanding, and you just hear something, you are going to be quick to judge, or to trudge, as they would say. So let's talk about the other part. Yes, it's a ram, not a lamb. Now, there's a song, and within it, right? Because if you flip the words around, flip it backwards, it's M-A-R. La grita que tumba la ma, right? In Spanish, right? But M-A-R could be Mars if there was an S, but then again, you'd have to be silent for that. But what about a ram and not a lamb? Well, Abraham, so on and so forth, was told to sacrifice his son, right? If you believe, do this. And then somebody showed up, or he heard a voice, and all of a sudden, a ram showed up. Why a ram? Why not a sheep? Why not a lamb? See, here's the thing. If it was something other than, then it would be attacking a youngling, right? See, a lamb is a young lamb or sheep or ram, so on and so forth, whether it's male or female. A sheep is a female. A ram is a uncastrated male sheep, lamb, so on and so forth. Uncastrated, meaning they can have children. Google it. Ask a farmer. Ask someone who takes care of animals. There's different ways to castrate or spade or neuter an animal, right? So, when God presented something, why do you think that was? Was it because Abraham's anger and the proof of faith stepped in and somebody interjected, but they weren't trained, right? They were maybe intelligent, maybe keyboard people, maybe part of the AI system, the privileged community that like to throw whispers, like somebody else can't throw their voice as well, or be hinting at something. So, if it was a lamb, do you think Abraham would go and kill a child or attack someone instead that got pointed out to him that confused everybody. See, in the beginning of the Bible and other spiritual scriptures, and it's a continuation story, it's a built on things, right? And you have to really pay attention and do your research to understand, right? So, in the beginning, you have Adam and Eve. Well, a snake told Eve something, and then she told Adam and got his dumbass to do it. And God said, why did you do that? Oh, well, she did this, blah, 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 blah. But they left certain things out, like the E and the M. If the snake was able to manipulate Eve, to make her promises, think Xerxes in 300, right? I give you the earth and water and this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 blah. And Leonidas goes out and does his thing. And then you have rise of an empire, right? Took one man, different uniform, thank God he was with the Navy, and had to carry out certain things. Pissed off a lot of people, probably. And the interesting fact is they still kept going because they wanted to dominate and conquer everything. So if somebody was to share an Apple phone, remember they had the red Apple phone, remember what was said, jumble up those letters before you interject, then what was it for? Now, if it was to play this game between two, it's like if I had a journal and I purchased it, I selected it, I made sure it appealed aesthetically to your eye, speaking from experience, and then I wrote something and I said, this is for you, and you alone, from me to you. And then you went to another person, right? Your ex, whomever, whatever the case, and you said, I want you to read this first page, and I want you to do it on the second page to create chaos between the two rams. See, one is uncastrated and the other one may be spaded, right? Can't have children. Or has nuts, but probably can't recreate anything. The other one can. And they were just trying to get that person to be like this person, even though they didn't want to be with that person. They wanted to be with this person. Now, if that were the case, well, then it gives justification, right? I mean, think about it. If he got upset because of all the trickery and everything else, and somebody helped a brother out, hooked him up, you know what I'm saying? Then he wouldn't fuck him over either, right? But yet, in the evening, people get drunk, they do crazy things, they cheat, etc., so on and so forth, and they have lots of sex, because sex is what drives certain things, especially when you're deprived from it, because for some reason you don't think you can self-please. So he not only helped Abraham, he helped the lamb, the son, or the child, whether it was a son or daughter, depending on the energy that they put out, masculine, feminine energy, etc. I've been around homosexual couples where there's two men and one's more flamboyant than the other. So that one would have more feminine energy than masculine energy. And so he helped two with one to take out an idiot that was trying to probably get away with something. You've seen the book of Clarence, right? By Jay-Z, where he sees someone perform, right? I think it was about Jesus Christ, but it was about a con artist, right? And he looks at that, he goes, you know how much money we can make with that? You see what he has, you see all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I want that right now. And he goes and impersonates and starts making false things happen. Now, if you read the Bible's constructed a particular way, and they sometimes use fear to get you to read the Quran and everything else, but in the Quran, even in the beginning pages, it says something. So if Rome had crucifixes, which is bodies on a cross, and remember, it's a sword, not a cross, which is why the Templars carried such a thing, and then when they passed away, they put the sword in stone, similar to a soldier who dies in combat. You put the boots there, rifle upside down into the ground, helmet on top, to symbolize that's no longer in service. But why would they put it on the entrance to a new area, similar to Vlad the Impaler? who literally just impaled and shoved something so far up someone's rectum to their skull and made him look like a little Russian doll. It was funny until it wasn't. Think about it. If someone says all is fair in love and war, and then some dumb bitch says, oh, I guess we're losing the fucking war. Bitch, that was a tiff. You haven't even discussed a battle. Have you been trained for war? What happens when shit gets physical? You're gonna hide behind your tech? You're gonna get your posse? You're gonna feel safer with fucking numbers or with better trained people? So because someone looked out for someone and the little one, they were more inclined to trust that individual than the one that was possibly going to screw them over, similar to, well, the snake that told Eve something, that made Adam do something, that got his ass in trouble with the big man, and then they both got punished for it. One for keeping something out to favor themselves and get it for the other person, and then go back and then tell the other person, and then come back, oh, tell me this, and then tell me that. And they were playing ping pong or tennis, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to get information. Remember? Hunters and gatherers, right? Are you a hunter or are you a gatherer? And if you are a gatherer, what are you gathering? Because, I mean, think about it. Even in the Emerald Tablets, which Billy Carlson and other people talk about, even further back in history, they talk about how certain individuals wanted to figure out how can we get something to work and do the work. And then somebody made a tweak to the system, essence, DNA, etc. Think StarCraft, so that it could evolve, but they left the V out, VE, and they called it love, spelt backwards, right? Evolve has a VE in it. But if you leave those two out, because you're not off by one, you may be off by 2 or 3 or 4, give or take. Well, then, what are you missing? See, because in the art of war, or in JKD, the art of fighting without fighting, if you can break someone's heart, you can damage and put stress on the internal structure. And if you're a strategic thinker, right, and you want to plan a murder or kill somebody without getting in trouble or caught, how would you do it? Well, you would play with the invisible. Psychology, science, electronics, direct energy weapons, do the do. Wednesday is WED. Remember that. So let's continue. If you're able to control certain things like that, or put them to use and work in groups and play baseball like you're playing catch, and you say D, another one says nice, and the person at the behind the bar understands what you're saying because Dion Walker, who was a friend of mine with nickname D Nice, well, they were just playing catch with words, right? Throwing their voice around the room like they were playing basketball. See, they play minor leagues in certain areas. They play major leagues in other areas. And if you can't make it to the majors, then you're stuck in the minors. Now let's talk about the child, right? The little one. Why would one be presented instead of a lamb? Instead of killing the child? Are you out of your mind? Or was it to entice the other person to come out that was trying to do something? And they got caught. All of them, because everything is monitored, no matter how smart you think you are. So if other people are having a, let's say, tag, or some genius wants to cross lines, and you should not cross lines because, well, Vlad the Impaler impaled people, and you cross the line, then that gives premise for the cross, because you cross the line, now you put on a crucifix. Not funny anymore, right? Some people get gassed playing full court. That's why they stick to half and wait for the point guard to bring the ball down. Don't drop the ball. Now, if you're with somebody and they're confident because they're well trained, But you come from a different area, and you see the wolf packs, right? And the crews. The cruise is a ship, first of all. The crew are the people on the ship. The wolf pack is like kind of like a family, operates as such. But then you got these other stragglers that work together, like the hyenas in Lion King, right? And then they want to start playing these word games. Well, I could say, do you have faith? Or is that ChatGPT? Or is that Gemini? What's up, twin? Are you in? Is it time to win, twin? TWIN. I mean, think about it. Or do you think at all? Because if you're having a menage a trois on someone's phone and sharing all that information and loose lips gets tips, think about it. I wonder what strips that you degrade sometimes. If they say chickens are cheap, what's a chicken head? Because they got to get paid for the information so they can stay safe. Because the person they're getting information from may not be in the best situation, but if they're in a safe place and the other person's not allowed to be around, they're safe, right? Unless they find out who's pulling the strings, like the Russian puppet, right? Or the crucifix, right? And now you know where the dead bodies go. And then we can just burn them into ashes to separate. If you study Hinduism and Buddhism, when they used to cremate a body, it was their way of separating the soul from the vessel. The Bible was translated from the Greek, was it not? You saw Troy. What happened to his cousin when Hector came out? Not Hector Lavoe, who J-Lo did a movie with, Mark Anthony, who also had kids with him so that her kids could be Puerto Rican. No offense. But if you were banking on the culture to put money in your pocket and not putting back into the culture or the place you say, you appreciate, then what's the difference between Puerto Rico, which is in Spanish, and Port Royal, which is South Carolina, dummy? Rich Port, Port Royal. Are you a doctor or are you a resident? See how the word play begins to distinct itself? You can call yourself a doctor with a piece of paper, but in the hospital you are a resident, right? Here, let me give you a tour, T-O-R. Life is like a cake or onions. Which one, Shrek? Jesus rode in on a donkey, right? Not Don Quixote. That's schizophrenia. But if you know technology and you've seen it happen before, then you know how to use it, right? Direct energy weapons, do the do. Because you're chasing the green, which is the purpose of the can, but it's red lettering. And the love of money is the root of all evil, which would normally lead to one's downfall. See, if information is the most valuable form of currency and you're trying to bank off of it, you're leading yourself into your own downfall. Like the person that wants to say war. War backwards is what? Raw? Flip the M, flip the W to an M? Ram? It's not so funny anymore. It's weird, right? Now, what's a lamb? Well, a lamb is a baby. Not a teenager, not a college student, under a certain age, right? And the B is silent. I don't need to break that up for you, do I? Bye. T-C-H. Are you playing both sides? Because you're bi? Are you a traitor? Are you a true person? Are you reliant? And you still, that's the sound it makes, right? And now you could Google this because people don't have patience. And if patience was a virtue, which was a movie about kangaroos because, well, they're marsupials and they have a pouch in front and they can box. And if you ever seen Crocodile Dundee, he had teeth around his hat. And Hook was scared of a croc or an alligator. But when he hunted poachers, he wasn't pulling the teeth out of certain things. It was a metaphor, was it not? What is a poacher? Not something that does something to survive, but to profit off of, such as cutting off elephant tusks because you were told it's ivory and it's extremely valuable, and it's also a form or way for them to defend themselves. And if it's a way for them to defend themselves, if you remove their defenses, put those handcuffs on, metaphorically or not, give them a label, tell everybody, cry for help, tap their phone. The moment you listen to them, all of a sudden somebody shows up, and you leverage that in your favor to only entrap or blackmail people. Well, then you got to read Black's Law Dictionary, you probably go to the library, the law library that is, and then of course read the code, not the Constitution, because they're not like us, because we have a code. So you know who is in trouble. And if you're hearing this right now, listening to it, thinking you're slick, like a ninja, what's water? And what are they putting in it? Who's in charge of it? See, what's marketing but speaking to the masses? When you go to a church, you sit in mass because you fucking matter. Don't you? Or do you pay taxes? That's why you have Matthew, who's a tax collector, and you still don't get it. Okay. So you have interest, inflation, and tariffs. 2 T's, 2 I's. 2 I's, information, right? Goes both ways. And then you got 2 T's, so that's 4. Cross the 2 I's in the middle, that's 3 strikes, you're out of there. Now you can know who and whom to put where, because they crossed a line that looked like an I, when in actuality they were just obsessed with something, treating it like a science project. Now, if class was an acronym, if you've seen it on my YouTube channel, you go to school to learn about creativity. Later on, you learn about logic, art, science. Well, that's what you get your bachelor's in. And then when some crazy thing happens, you wonder about spooky spirituality and all this other stuff, right? So when you see me spit at you, which is a term in slang, which is conversing, not spitting on the ground. When you see me spit at you, you know I'm trying to get rid of you. Yo, you should probably get out of here. Hey, I say get out of here. Now I'm going to raise my voice. I'm spitting at you, yes? Or am I speaking to you? I before E, except after. But if C squared and 1C was flipped, you can make the letter S, could you not? 2 C's, right? 2 C's, right? And then you flip it. You used to do the little hand symbol, etc., right? Pistols high. But you like to play chess and Assassin's Creed without knowing the code because you got lazy, and then you don't know about the rooks. Why was the King Charles Act enacted? That's weird, because in the game, the rooks were in the UK. Are UK? Or is that the initials for Ukraine? I don't know. Use AI. Go fish. Go fetch. Keep them guessing. But then people get emotionally triggered. So they're going to play string theory with your CNS. And when you don't do what they want because they want you to be a slave, they get you to do the do. So they can make the do. Or pay whatever's due. DEWDUE. Did you eat? I don't know. Did everyone weaponize? They're calling out gang gang. Do you gang bang? I knew somebody who did. But they say don't watch corn. This is for educational purposes, by the way. If you're enjoying this, by all means, hit the like button and subscribe. See, if they're trying to get rid of certain individuals, well, then you have to understand those individuals. They're trying to get particularly rid of certain people with minimal effort. Well, one crazy person has to go out to raise an empire. At least that was the premise in the movie. Because even after making love, even after everything else, even after attempting to create peace, it was not warranted nor granted. Was it? They just kept pushing the button, pushing the button. And I mean, if we're using initials here, what if P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, was police department? PD, or double penetration? Snake, Eve, Adam? Think about it. See, what's funny is that there was a guy named Guillermo, and they had a group called Control Alt Delete, and it's funny. Everything's funny, right? Because the jackals laugh, and certain species, well, they play with their food before they consume it, and they say you shouldn't talk to a flipper because it's illegal, but you could use a flipper to get into any vehicle if you want, sold on Amazon. Is it because they use echolocation, triangulation, or strangulation? How did Jeffrey Epstein die? Now, when I was younger, I had the veil dropped in front of me several times. And when that happens, I get happy, I get excited, because I finally see the truth. But some people will put on a facade instead of being what they are. There's a show or a movie on Netflix called Uglies, and it reminded me of the TV show Keeping Up with the Kardashians and how they emulate certain things because of the things that they have. And somebody might get upset with this. I'm not worried about that right now. But when I was at a bar one night with someone close to me, I saw a woman in the back of the room in a black dress. Nobody was paying attention to her. All these things, so on and so forth. I would have went over, but I was currently with somebody in a relationship. That was hopefully going to go further, but it did not. They're happy now, married, thank God. It's whatever. But then I noticed something. She started paying attention to everybody around the room, and it reminded me of California and a couple other things, Keeping Up with the Kardashians and everything else. And they ended up getting these breast implants, and no offense, they're amazing, it's beautiful, so on and so forth. But they got the attention and everything that came along with it. Just like this other woman who said, why doesn't anybody want to give me a baby? Right? And I said, do you actually want a baby, or do you want everything that comes along with it? Think about it. Do you want a baby, or do you want everything that comes along with it? Do you want to have a conversation, or you want to take the easy way out and get whatever just so that you can get whatever it is that you're trying to or can't say? Because in the Uglies, they were doing the same thing. They would change themselves, etc. And then they had this group of misfits, these misguided children. Uncle Sam's misguided children, USMC. I swear they'd be Marines, right? MAR's in there somewhere. And they said, you don't have to do that. Come with us. Now, if you know the story of the Marines, it was established in a bar of probably depressed drunks that got hot and bothered all the time because they thought no one cared. And if nobody cares, and somebody gives you something to care about and presents you with somebody and a group of individuals who are like you that actually care about one another, and you get trained as Spartans do, are you not stronger as a fighting force than the individualistic mindset of people playing World of Warcraft instead of Warcraft or StarCraft? There's the CW and there's the WC. There's SC and CS. Ask Lewis. So think about it. Are you messing with CSS and RBG to put a hex on somebody, which are computer terminology, right? Do you code in Pythons? Stomp the yard. Remember, Chris Brown was his little brother that got killed, and then the big brother had to step in. Why is that? Were they not the same? Just like in the military, in certain branches, like a tree, atrium. Trees have branches, yes? Like the hand or the fingers on your hand that act like roots when you place it into the ground, or your 10 toes. Think about it. Venus flytrap. Why would I say that? Well, what was the trap? If you want to be like X, Y, and Z, just do this. And then you go back, oh my God, I want to try this, because that seed got planted into Venus, which is, if men are from Mars, then women are from. And who were they trying to get in trouble? The first one that did everything that they were told correctly. And then they were presented with something that someone else probably wanted to possess. Witches, be careful. If there's witches, there's wizards, and if there's wizards, there's witchers. And a lot of other things. Because what is a veil? You've seen Avengers. Wakanda had technology, vibranium, field of vibration. It's a vibe. And it shielded certain things from not being seen, kind of like Avalon was shielded by the powers that be and resided on the island, so that things couldn't be seen. Some people got triggered, some people got tricked, some people got a mishap, etc. But they don't seem to ever ask the question, why or how did they get there safely? What allowed that to happen? Now, if you need a congressional hearing for a war to start, well then, what allowed those individuals to get sent to those locations in order for war to happen? You don't think other countries have been doing that for years? Genghis Khan took over freaking half the thing. You have Alexander the Great. You have other Greeks that took a mighty nation, so on and so forth, just to preserve and protect. Nobody's touched UK. It's a tiny country, but they got Australia, South America, or South Africa. You got NASA, North America, South America. Think about it. But you never heard of NCIS. Central America, the equator. Or is that not equal to North and South? I don't know. Figure it out. Do they not look the same? Now, if King Charles Act was put into place to remove certain things and to put in act certain things, whether protections, so on and so forth, were there or not, well then, why is it that vertical farming and solar energy powered Disney along with the other facilities, and it provides food for everybody, but it hasn't been broadcasted out or shared with the world? But corporations have taken over farmland. Farmland has an incorporated technology, especially with AI and vertical farming. You could get more with less because you could build vertically. A 25-foot tower, give or take, in an indoor facility. You don't have to put so many chemicals. And if you do your research, certain companies, and I said this in another video, whey protein was made from worms. And before it was called anything else, it was called the whey. So are you putting poison in the ground where the worms live that have many hearts, this, that, and the third, that can feed the plenty or the many? And you just, it tastes different and it looks different, so you don't think of it. But then you don't realize that that's consuming something else. But yet you want to talk about things like, oh, well, we need to give them a pill because they're not doing what we want. Or how about you get smacked in the face with a pillow so you can get some sense knocked into you? They can make the impossible burger, allegedly, then what's not possible? $1.80 strategy. How much does meat, beef, or whatever go for per pound? I looked at Google, 187, give or take. 180 plus tax, 190. A little higher for certain areas, certain cuts. You'd much rather be entertained during someone's depression, because during the Great Depression they made money from people's entertainment value that they got on a monthly reoccurring basis. Oh, we have a fight here. You've seen Cinderella Man, the Gladiator. The people were crying out for death. That's what they wanted. A prisoner versus a free person. But even liberty cracked with a fucking nail. Now there's two Statue of Liberties, and in history, believe it or not, if you understand Ripley, in France, there were people that were being, well, a little bit too much. And they couldn't get it through their head. They were sick. They had the ick, but they weren't sick ick, if that makes sense. And they ended up hanging them, because apparently Jeffrey Epstein hung himself, hanging them from the Eiffel Tower. You know, that's where you high five in the middle, where someone is like Eve, but you race for what? Now, don't get offended, but if you did the Eiffel Tower, which I think Dion and Freddie Brown did, along with a couple other things, and you high five in the middle, then both got one or two for the price of one. But who can have and who can't? Is that why you drink wine and you use a decanter? So think about it. Why is Batman so powerful but never actually had children? Maybe because he can't. So he got wards, right? And those wards he raised as such and taught as such, but they were not adopted. They got to remain with their name, but they did not get adopted to share his, possibly because somebody might have done something stupid. And he wanted to see, out of the misfits, the unwanted children, which ones were worthy to take over after everything was done and continue a legacy amongst all the jokers out there. You have 52 weeks in a year, like 52 playing cards with two jokers, one in play and one's a guaranteed card, which can bring the whole deck back. Or you could take it to the store, go to Bicycle, show them the card, etc. Something's wrong with this deck, etc. And they'll give you a brand new deck. At least that's the way the story goes. And I remember somebody was saying, oh, those are not tarot cards, they're oracle cards. Well, the oracle in 300 lied to Leonidas for gold, money, and everything else, which led to the destruction down the road because they did not think long term and they were playing both sides against each other. Oracle. What side of the fence are you on? Because if I started a company or magazine, maybe we call it gag, and then you'll understand what a gag order is, or why you go to gag to get you out of a situation where they might gag you or hang you. See, I say loose lips gets tips. Why is that? Did you do this with that person? Did you really do that? Is that so and so? Is this? Why are you asking so many questions? If you knew those asking those questions could get you fucking killed in the right area, saying it out loud, like nobody could fucking hear you, because you raise your voice to project so that other people can. Now I'm doing pitch, tonality, and everything else. I'm wearing a microphone. Speaking of which, mic check. We're still good. And if I could hear you from the other side that's more than a certain amount of feet away, let's say 5, 6 feet, 7, give or take, 6, 7. Why are you speaking so loud if they're so close to you? Do you want me to hear you? To hear what they say? And then it comes back? Oh, is that this? Yes, that's that. Are you trying to like get away with something like somebody doesn't know something already? I've said it several times over. I had the veil, not veal, dropped in front of me several times. So what are you trying to dominate? Correct yourself, right? Some people say, oh, you're just nothing but a conqueror. What do you protect? How'd you make it to such an old age, but you're looking for gold? Grow old. Unless you don't want to, and you're hanging out with John D. You know Rockefeller. The Philosopher's Stone, is that fiction or fantasy? Ask Nicholas Flamel. There's several books on that. You're always after something. And even the doctors play scientists, and not all the doctors are doctors professionally. They are residents. They are there for a temporary assignment because they understood the assignment to learn how to treat and heal the body, because it takes time. Some people are impatient, and so they'll pay a lot of money to get a piece of paper like a fucking driver's license that can do the same thing if they fuck up in surgery. Like in the TV show The Resident, in the first episode, where a surgeon messes up and kills somebody, like a reckless driver on a highway or road can kill somebody. Now, I don't know how much those people weigh exactly. If you need some protein, I know where to find it. But leave that shit somewhere else. Because I promise you, I will cash in on every fucking label that they wanted to put in metaphorical handcuffs, and I will gladly take a break. I could use the rest. Since you want to be slave owners, right? There's a difference between reporting to and working with and for. Everyone in the company works for whoever owns a piece of the company. They work with each other, not for. But if saying for makes you feel powerful, then go for it, boo-boo. Because if we're in the same location, under the same night sky, then who owns all of it? Wouldn't it be smart if when somebody said God, because it was translated from the Greek, and the Greeks had a lot of gods, they said we could share this power because they were smart. We don't need all this. It gets boring after a while, having what? You get all this money, so on and so forth, etc. Do whatever you want, then what? You get bored. But if you share and live amongst everything, you can learn even more and help and watch them grow. And if God left the S off because something people knew how to shut the fuck up or be silent, then they could be helped. But you have to find out who's truly worth saving, well, that's an S, or being helped. Shh. Sounds similar, but different. They say diamonds are forever, but you can grow synthetic jewels and still make bank by leveraging the fact that you can etch a serial number inside of it like a fucking dollar bill for security purposes if it ever gets cut or stolen internally with a laser. And now that's a competitive advantage to the other stones that are being sold, mined, or whatever. If you could grow crystals as a science project, you can definitely do that. There's your advantage. There's your legal loophole. So what's not possible? Pitbull said, I'm possible, is in the word impossible. But if you're just trying to get a check, to put someone in check, then you're going to be left playing a game the rest of your life instead of winning. So I hope you have faith. I hope you know how to use it. No pun intended to the acronym that was in the thumbnail. And I hope that one day you ask better questions and you don't read the same thing over and over again and don't go further and on to the next one. Because in the Quran and certain other books, and I've been through a couple already, in the first couple pages, you'll figure it out. It dictates, it only seems as though someone was crucified on a cross. If the Vatican is in Rome, and Rome was a mighty empire, not emperor, empire, because the throne was never supposed to be sat in. The powers were supposed to be shared correctly. And that turned into the Vatican. And they traded off protection for proper healing for protection. And to do proper things in the world and to handle the other situations. Then don't you think Marco Polo did the same thing, if you watch Netflix, with Genghis Khan and other things such as explorers? Amerigo, if I remember correctly, Amerigo discovered America, but Columbus kept going back because the Queen of Spain heard that there was gold and all this other stuff, but he was ruthless. According to lore in history books, but they could change the names. But can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you see with your ears and hear with your eyes? Which is a callback to a lesson in class and soon to be a lesson in CE, continuing education of class, for those of you who want to go further and get some more understanding philosophically, breaking things down. Because there's a line that you should not cross, which if you understand philosophy or Greek lettering, there's a difference between psi, looks like a pitchfork, so you stick a fork in it. If you've seen the music video Labor, by the way, that woman is amazingly beautiful. I would be petrified to speak to her without even knowing, and if she knew my situation, she probably wouldn't even talk to me. She would not talk to me at all. But philosophy has a circle, like a globe, with a line down the middle, or an equator. Why is that? Ask yourself those questions, or go to AI and ask it. And maybe you'll get some fucking answers instead of trying to guess and wonder and ask questions. Because I think you're not asking for certain reasons. You're asking because you're pissed. And you just want a cheat code when everybody has a different test. Ask for help if you truly need it. Don't manipulate it. Because if you put stress on the internal structure and external, breaking someone's heart when doves cry, right? Messing with their mind, direct energy weapons, central nervous system, etc. External, right? Straining, draining their energy, etc. Financial issues, etc. Because it's a fucking game. Or you're scared And that tells me all I need to know about your fucking character. Because people only act a certain way when they think they have leverage or they already know what's about to happen. So if we're in the past and you're living in the future, then what's in the middle? I'll see you guys in another video of Finding Freedom. Whoa, Finding Freedom, not Frito. See, Frodo was Lord of the Rings, but if Gandalf the Grey, and if you ever seen Grey Man, turned into Gandalf the White, well then you would ask yourself more questions. And if you're messing with the CNS to create a Freudian slip, and you want to remain in power because you have an ist at the IST at the end of your profession, well then we're going to have a conversation, hopefully sooner than later, because you've incriminated yourself. And I don't mean that in the legal understanding, because you don't understand a code, but you understand what a con is, and so do I. Talk to you guys later. Peace.